Hey guys, Josh Yoder here, Future Contributions Business Development. Welcome back to another week. We're excited to have you. We have just been on a start of a fantastic week over here at FC. I hope you guys have been too. But you know what? On a start of a fantastic week doesn't mean that things don't go wrong. It's just we have plans in place when things do go wrong to immediately hit them head on and or keep them from happening. But we all know they happen. And when they do, we're ready for them. So we're having a good week over here at FC. Today, we have a special treat. So we have Vanya here with Priority Painting and More. And we've been friends for a while. I've been coaching him here for a little bit with business advice. And we go to the gym together. We have a lot of fun. So, yeah, living life together. So, Vanya, just tell us a little bit about yourself, about your business and what you guys do.
Well, originally, we started the business in Williamsburg, Virginia. And we were working on that for about a year. And during that time, we were actually getting ready to move to Sarasota, Florida here. After we had done, work there for about a year, we decided it was time to move. And once we moved, we got everything packed up and we started doing business down here with people, and we started to grow. So I've been in the business for about 7 years now. And I've just been, learning how to eventually take over the company, because that's what my dad would like me to take over the company. And so I've been getting advice, of course, from Josh and, how to take the proper steps to do that.
Yeah, and you've been an absolutely great student. I mean, it's they're an amazing company, and the different places and systems they have in place are absolutely phenomenal. And they're just a testimony of what small businesses can do. The stuff these guys go through, the customer service these guys have is absolutely amazing. So hats off to that. And that's the biggest part. One of the biggest parts that we talk about at FC is customer service. These guys have it. I don't care how much in business, you can learn from everybody. And that's one thing I've learned from them is they will never stop a job until it's done. And not to the customer's happy until they're happy, even if the customer is happy. So it's really cool to see that. So getting into it a little bit, what we're going to do today is Vanya has a couple questions he's going to ask me. As a young entrepreneur, as a young business owner, his dad owns a business, he's helped running the business on different things of not necessarily struggle points, but just question points in business and different areas of growth that they're at. And a lot of you can relate with these questions. So the idea is through Vanya's questions, we can all learn together. And if I don't know the answer, I'll just let you know, and I'll ask Tony because he'll probably know. But no, so we're excited here to start this interview and just go to a place where we can dialogue and learn together. So I'll let you take it over. I know you have a couple questions here, and we'll go through them.
Awesome. So the first question I had was one that I actually had on my mind ever since my dad had really brought up the point. It's like, hey, I'd like you to take over the company, because originally he started it for me, and he wanted me to, just learn the best I can and learn how to take over the company. And to my thought, made me really nervous. And so brings up the question is, being a young business, being a young person learning how to run a business, how do you know you're taking the right steps?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is an important one. So how do you know you're taking the right steps? And it aligns with, and I think I preach this every single time, your mission, your vision, and your values in that order. So you really need to write down what is your mission, because you could have your values are intact and they're in their place. Your mission, vision, and values, you can see where you want to go. But if you don't have a mission is when you have a game plan, a game plan, a blueprint of where you want to go, what do you want to achieve. But the most important part about a blueprint and a roadmap in a life and in business isn't necessarily where you're starting or where you're ending. It's the checkpoints to know that if you're on the way, are you on the right track?
Right.
Because we actually talked about this the other day at the gym. If you're flying a plane, you're making constant corrections. If I set destination from New York to Paris, I'm going to make constant corrections, but I only can correct if I know where I want to go. Right. And with the aviation, there's every so often, there's actually little pings that they'll put up into the sky, obviously invisible to the naked eye, but they can track. They guide themselves to this destination, which guides them to this destination, which in turn, at these different checkpoints, get them to where they want to go. Right. So mission, vision, and values. Thomas Edison said it like this, one of the smartest men that ever lived, that a tip of a pencil is sharper than your mind. So remember to write things down. If it's not on paper, it's not real. If it's in your head, it hasn't come and given birth yet.
Right.
So that's where I started early in life, in my mid-20s, just like you,
Right.
and started really writing things down and knew exactly what I wanted out of life. I didn't even know what that looked like, but that's where I started.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, that's definitely something, like when you had, mentioned that to me too. It's definitely something that, I've been constantly thinking about, and it's helped me get a better understanding of it. So, and from then on, I'm just going to keep working hard. So,
yeah, absolutely.
So the second question is one that, as a young entrepreneur, as a young, future business owner, how do you balance your personal life with learning how to run a business?
Great question. So when you think of the concept of balance, you think of a perfect ratio, like a weight here and a weight here, and it perfectly equals out. Well, you'll learn real quick in business that's not reality. So I don't like to use the word balance in business. I like to use the word counterbalance. So the balance is actually really frustrating, because now you're trying to balance your balance. Because as soon as you get off balance, you're trying to get balance this way.
Right.
And you ever walking a log and you get too much here and you get too much here.
Right.
Well, if you're all over yourself like that, trying to balance out everything, nothing becomes balanced. It can become frustrating.
Right.
So counterbalance is, I might have a crazy week at work and I know my schedule's packed for this week, but this next following week, I'm going to make sure the beginning of my schedule is going to be light for the next week. So my kids can see me, so my significant other can see me, so my wife can see me, whatever it is, where nobody sees me, and that's great. And I'm just going to be Netflixing or something. And you're just, dialoguing something, writing stuff down in a quiet place. But you need to put things in place. If you know you're going to have a busy season, taking a little bit of time after that busy season and regathering yourself. So I would say counterbalance is going to be the biggest thing. Now, this also is going to go back to your mission, your vision, and your values. Sure. Because none of us start a business necessarily because we love the business. We love the idea of the business and what it can do for us.
Right.
Because what happens is we get all excited about starting a business. Running a business from day to day, I'm going to tell you right now, and maybe I'm still doing it wrong, but I talked to some guys who are doing it way better than me, and they say the same thing, is it's not, most of the times it's not fun, actually.
Yeah.
It can be very stressful. You're dealing with customers' issues, breakdowns, and team member issues, and all this other stuff. So the idea of business and what it's going to do for you is the fun part. When the rubber hits the road and the reality comes down to the point, it becomes very, very difficult. Sure. And so that's where it really comes down to your mission, your vision, your values, because if business is the only reason you want to get into is to make money, it will be short-lived, or it'll be long-lived torture.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of successful people that make millions and billions of dollars every single year. We hear about them. Elvis Presley, he had all the money in the world, all the fame too. It wasn't like he was declining. He was at the top, and he took his life because he did not have his mission, vision, and values in place, and something was missing in his life. So it's not about building a huge business. It's about building a legacy.
A legacy, I like that.
So in your legacy, you might have a business avenue, and that's part of your legacy, but that cannot complete your legacy, because it's a short circuit.
Right.
You know what a short circuit is? So a short circuit is if you're trying to run something, it goes just so far and then it stops. There's a piece missing. If you would put the right piece in there, ultimately keeping your spiritual life number one, and then keeping family close number second, your friends number third, and then your business number four. If you put your priorities in place, then you'll put yourself in a position to win at your legacy, rather than putting yourself in the position where you have to choose business or family. And if you constantly find yourself battling between, do I choose my family time and my business time? If that's a consistent problem, then there's something wrong with your processes and your systems and your business. It's showing a weak point. And that's not necessarily wrong. It just needs to be corrected. And most business owners don't recognize it, number one. And if they do recognize it, they know how to fix it, so it becomes overwhelming. And ultimately they burn out, quit, or they just stay small and they're scared to grow.
Right.
So I know that's a lot more than what you just asked me.
Well, hey,
but
the more it's good. It's good. It's good
Yeah.
to know more about it. So, and I'm glad you were able to share more. So, the next question would be, how do you stay ahead of the competition in the industry that you're in? How do you, I guess the best way to ask that is, how do you continue that drive? How do you stay on top, I guess?
Mm-hmm. So depending on the industry, because you're the painting industry, so using an example, any home service industry, so you can use your industry as an example in this case. So the way that you win in an industry is not necessarily letting people know what you do, because priority painting and more tells me exactly what you do. Emphasis is on painting. The more means like, oh, okay, he might fix a little bit of something along with this painting and stuff. So that's open-ended to a certain degree, and that's great. So you really want to highlight what you do, but you want to come across to the customer. This is where it's going to become branding. People don't buy what you have to offer. They buy who you are and what your product does for them.
Wow.
So people aren't buying paint. They're not excited about the paint being on their house. They are excited about the feeling that it's going to give them from the house being painted.
That's so true.
So if you go with your competition, I guarantee you, go get a couple quotes. This is what they're going to do. They're going to introduce themselves, even if they do that, and they're going to go jump straight into their sales pitch, if they even have one.
Right.
And they're going to tell you everything on the world why Behr and Sherwin-Williams and all these other just the greatest paints under the world. And then you're going to get to the end and this other guy's going to say the same thing. But what if you would start, and it really comes down to, guys, you know this, but it's the 4 pillars of business. And I'm going to tie this into what I just said, but it starts with a legal foundation. It's going to start with processes and systems, sales and marketing. So once you have those major 4s in place, then you can have a roadmap and scale that. So when you're selling yourself and you're matching like everybody else and you're just product knowledging everybody, what the difference is going to be is you coming in and you truly being passionate about what you're doing. You're excited to be there, and you actually do love people, and you want to see the change, not just in the business, but what the business is going to do for others around you. So you have your priorities straight, number one. But when you come in there, what you're going to do is like, look, Mr. Customer, I see what you see. When this house is painted, what feeling are you going to have once it's your favorite color and now your house matches your decking and your decking matches the furniture? How much more time are you going to spend out here? Because I know your time is valuable. And when you're sitting out here in the morning and drinking your coffee before you go to the office, it's a disappointing experience. What would happen if I can make that experience the best experience you ever had, and you're actually excited to come back out to your porch now? And what if we talk to customers like that and actually build an image in their head rather than, yeah, sure, tell them the product knowledge, but then sell what it does for them. So ultimately, this is how you set yourself apart. Coming to the end of this question is you're going to sell yourself first. You're going to sell your company second. You're going to sell your product third. A lot of businesses get those completely backwards. If you start with a product, you just put yourself into what everybody else does. But the key element is you're going to listen to the customer. And you're going to create the pitch around what they're telling you. And that takes skill. And not many salespeople have skill out there. So that's just in the sales part of it. The branding is on your websites, on the emails you send out, on your social media. You want to tell them, who is Vanya? Who are you? Who is your family? Hey, we are family-owned and operated local business. This is what I like to do on the weekends. This is who I am. Get people to meet you before they meet you. Ultimately, people, they will buy your story. So I want you to understand this. People ultimately, they buy you, but they're buying your story. And if you can, brand yourself in a way that your story is what's promoting people to call you, you eliminate a trust barrier. But another thing you're going to do is research. A lot of companies do not do that.
Yeah.
They do not research properly. They do not understand who their competition is, who's their top 3, what's the top 10. Innovation. So what are other companies doing to get ahead?
Right.
And finding out, okay, this is what this company did to get ahead. And also willing to do more than the other guy.
Yep.
So we could spend a whole entire 3-week program just on that question,
Absolutely.
but that's a big start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as somebody who's, newer to sales, because I've joined the BNI group and everything, someone who's getting into sales, that was, a really good eye opener, and definitely something that'll help me progress in that aspect of the company. So
yeah,
I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
This one, I guess, is a good question, but it's more one for you. What is the best piece of advice that you wish you had starting your business journey?
Started my business journey, it would have been research. It would have been research, because my situation was not a good financial situation. I had to do something, and I had to do something now.
Right.
Excuse me, guys. We're going to work through this tonight. I had a call for an entire week. So
That's okay.
We're going to get through it. But for me, I put myself, or I was put into a situation where I needed to make a move quickly. And I just jumped right out there. I wish I would have took a step back and just took a little bit more time and actually did research. Mm-hmm. Number one, on the proper equipment to use, and not being cheap when I started. Mm-hmm. I started with way too cheap. I was trying to see what I could afford rather than what the industry demanded.
Right.
Because there's a watermark in an industry that you get into, any industry. A watermark is on a river, on a bridge. That's the average depth of a water.
Yep.
When you get into painting, or you get into some of these trade businesses, you have to start at a certain level. You can't just start way down here with a rusty truck and all that other stuff. Right. You can do that, but that's a long road, and it ends nowhere.
Right.
And I struggled for 7 months getting nowhere. Wow. I wasted my reputation with bad product. I wasted my time and mental energy. In some cases, when my business partner at the time literally wore his shoulder out because of the faulty equipment that we're using it wrong. And we're just trying to wing it, and by mere force, just trying to force ourselves into the field. And that got us so far. But once we met the right people, mm-hmm. took a step back, and we're like, okay, this is what I should have done. And ultimately, I did not follow the proper guidelines in FC that we teach on a business plan. And before you start anything, it's research.
Yeah.
So allocating your budget, you can't do that without knowing what you should be spending. So ultimately starting the end of mine and building back. So I didn't do that. So I wish that I would have had a written plan in place, and then talking to somebody who is in that industry.
Right.
Somebody be willing to talk to me in the industry, tell me the great things of it and the bad things about it, so I could have prepared myself a little bit better. So there's a few things I would have done differently.
That's good. So definitely research, and that's also something that I myself can work on. Even though I'm not the owner, I think it's still a good idea, for somebody who is working to be the owner. Just because I'm not at that space yet, and I'm not quite there yet, doesn't mean that I shouldn't do it. And, I think that's a, good point that you had mentioned, because, it's good for everybody to do research. It doesn't matter what you do. Yeah. I think that's a very smart thing to do. So.
Yeah. Lifelong learning. Absolutely. No matter what we're doing in life, we always want to excel and to learn and invest into ourselves, because the best investment, the only investment nobody could ever take away, is an investment in yourself.
Absolutely. That's very true. It's very true. This, I guess, would tie into the same thing, but, what is, one main mistake that entrepreneurs or business owners make, and what is, something they can do to avoid it?
The biggest thing they're going to, one of the biggest causes of failure is obviously poor planning, but it's going to come down to finances. They did not budget enough. It's called run money. Mm-hmm. So people think that they're just going to get in business and turn a profit immediately. They're going to spend all the money they have just to start the business and then some.
Right.
And then they leverage debt, they leverage this, the grandma's couch, all this stuff, craziness.
Right.
And then they're expecting just to turn a profit right away.
Right.
Well, anything in business, I could tell you right now, is 90 days before anything turns. Your marketing, your branding, your sales, even building up that customer base, all of it till it starts flowing is at least 90 days. So in FC, we teach the 90-day rule. The 90-day rule is anything that we do in business, you'll see it on the other end of that 90 days till the needle starts to move, not the completion of the needle. So that is called the learning curve. The learning curve is when you start up here and everything's great, well, then you're going to drop down here, be willing to go through the valley, to come up through the top, you flatten out, and you spike back up. That's the learning curve.
Right.
But if you don't allocate your finances properly and budget properly, you could have the best plan in the world. You could have the best sales, the best marketing. You could have the best equipment. But if you do not allocate your budget to maximize it, to get through that learning curve, I don't care how good you are. If you don't have funding, you're out of business. We are in business ultimately. Businesses are supposed to make money.
Yep.
That's what businesses are supposed to do. Businesses also spend a lot of money. And most businesses don't break even for 5 years. And you know what? I'm going to say it on here. We can use the crap word, but that's a bunch of crap. Okay. So businesses, it should not take you 5 years to break even. There's so much misinformation out in the market. It's ridiculous.
Right.
With our business, even as bad as we started it, we actually broke even our first month. We started profiting month number 2. Most businesses don't do that. Even with our bad plan and everything else, it was that sheer force pushing forward that we were able to do that. But a lot of businesses, if you're in the trade industry, the United States in particular, I'm sure there's some slow pockets here and there, but you should not take 5 years to break even. If you're doing that, you have put yourself in the wrong industry, the wrong timing, or you're starting too small. Sometimes you have to start bigger so that you can recoup a profit quicker.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So I think that what it really would come down to is number one, budgeting. Obviously, we talked about planning as well, but it is really going to come down to that. Also, leadership. We haven't talked about that at all tonight. But you could have all these other plans in place, but what runs a good plan is leadership.
Absolutely.
And a lot of business owners they're running away from responsibility in some ways. They're running away because they don't want to be tied to a boss. When they don't realize they're now going to have every customer they inquire are now their boss.
Right.
And I'll never forget it. Back when I was in the car business years ago, we were complaining about the pay and some other stuff. Not me, some of the other guys. And finally, my GM just stopped the entire floor and said, "Who writes your paycheck?" And we all stopped. And he said, "Well, Mr. Peterson does." "No, you do." "No." They didn't know. The customer writes your paycheck. Ultimately, that's where it comes down to.
Absolutely.
So if a lot of entrepreneurs make the mistake of they want to go start their own business so they can be in control. You have way less control when you start your own business. So that time of now it can take 5 years for you to work yourself out of the business. Because ultimately a lot of people are thinking about, and this is another mistakes people make, is do you want to be a business owner or an entrepreneur? Do you know the difference?
I've heard somebody say it long ago, but honestly, I can't quite remember.
And I didn't either, actually. I didn't even put this together until 2 years ago. It was actually one of my business coaches. He said that a business owner will run his business and he'll stay in the business for the life of that business. And he's happy being there. And he'll build and scale a very successful business. An entrepreneur will build a business and put people in place and processes and systems in place that it will run without him, and he'll pull out of that business and it'll run by itself and he'll go start other businesses.
Wow.
So that's true leadership. And a lot of bosses are pushing their employees, they're pushing the business, they're cracking the whip, they're doing all these other things when a true leader and entrepreneur are building a space where and ultimately they're bringing in people smarter than them,
right.
giving them a space where they can be free and recreate themselves. Because a lot of industries just cramp your talent and they hold it here like this.
Yep.
And the second they think you're smarter than them, they get you out of there,
right.
because they're threatened by you.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how we are at FC.
Right.
And that's not how true entrepreneurs act. They build it's called strength circles.
Mm-hmm.
They see somebody with potential and they put them in a place in a business. And if they don't fit there, it doesn't mean you get rid of that individual.
Right.
You put them somewhere where they belong.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's not a space for somebody that has talent and you don't have a position open, create a position
mm-hmm.
for them.
Absolutely.
So this all comes down to leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Lastly, I'll say this. Business owners, when they're first starting, are not willing to fail.
Right.
They're not willing to fail. And I don't say that a lot, and I don't like using the fail word.
Right.
But a lot of people are not willing to go to the end themselves and risk it all.
Right.
They have plan B, plan C. Well, I'm going to start this business, but if it doesn't work out, I'm going to do this.
Right.
Have you ever heard that? You ever hear somebody start a business and they're like,
yep.
yeah, I want to start this business, but I'm going to do this on the side too, so
right.
I can get money to help her. No, those businesses do not succeed.
Right.
So plan B takes away from energy from plan A.
Right.
And
that's good.
Yes.
It's a great way to think about that.
There's only one plan.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes down to your mission, vision, and values. If you're going to have plan A, B, all through Z, it means that you don't have your mission and vision and values down. You don't know your why, so you can't know your what, and it can't produce its how.
Yep.
So once you do those different things and allocate it, you can now put yourself in a position to where you will pull the right people into your life because you change your surroundings.
Right.
And that would be one of those other things too. If I can add another lastly to this lastly thing, is surrounding yourself with great people.
Absolutely.
Because you don't have to have the height of these business giants to get their view, because you can sit on their shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
And not many entrepreneurs take advantage of sitting on the shoulders of giants, because it's really cool, because you can get the same view as they do if you sit on their shoulders. I mean, the analogy is I have 3 kids, and it's always amazing every time, even to this day. I'll put my 9-year-old daughter on my shoulder and she's like, wow, I can see everything. Mm-hmm. That she gets to see at my level, but she didn't have to do all the work to get to my level.
Absolutely.
So a lot of times it's just being able to see what you can't see. There's a lot of work when they put you back down to get to their actual growth to that view. You got to grow there.
Absolutely.
But once you see that view, you can't unsee that. So hang out with giants.
Absolutely.
So it'd be another one.
That's definitely something that I have to give my dad a lot of thanks for, is because as soon as he gave me that, he had made that comment. It's like, hey, I want you to take over this company. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't know how to do that. Mm-hmm. But, he, in the business world aspect, he's pretty much the only one that, believed in me at that time, because he knew it's like, hey, there's a lot of potential. You have a lot of potential. And throughout all that time, he's pushed me and pushed me and pushed me, because he believed in me, and he knew, hey, this is where I know you can be. I know, you might be nervous, you might be scared to get there, but I know you can do it. And like that analogy is he was putting me on his shoulders, not physically, but he's putting me on his shoulders, and he was showing me, hey, this can be yours. You just have to work at that. Mm-hmm. And that was definitely something that, spoke volumes to me, because being somebody that didn't know anything about business, I didn't know how to run a business. I just knew how to be a good employee. That was definitely something that, really made me think about it and be like, wow, this is a great opportunity for me. So to that, I have an endless thanks to my dad. And of course you. I mean, going to the gym and you're speaking into my life and speaking into our business and really showing us, and telling us this is what you guys can do. This is the potential you can be at. It's truly an amazing thing. Yeah. Awesome. Well, all good stuff. Great questions. You really have to have you can tell somebody's depth of wisdom by the questions they ask. Right. You're very wise at your very young age. Yes, if I can say, because I can say 20 is young, and that makes me feel old. Yeah. But no, it's great questions. Future contributions, business development.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Vanya, for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, you are welcome. So grateful to have all you guys into this community as well. Let's have a great week. Let's go crush it.